Zayed Al-Mansoor had everything: wealth, power, and a bride the world envied. Leila Haddad had only one secret, and it was the kind that could shatter empires. On the night they became husband and wife, one truth unraveled their fairy tale and turned a penthouse into a crime scene. The wedding of Zayed Al-Mansoor and Leila Haddad was unlike anything Dubai had seen in years. Zayed, a billionaire tech mogul known for his discreet lifestyle and ruthless business acumen, had long been considered one of the city's most eligible bachelors. His sudden engagement to Leila, a 23-year-old Algerian model with no known ties to the region's elite, sparked a wave of curiosity and speculation. Leila had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. No high-profile campaigns, no celebrity connections, no traceable lineage in the circles that mattered. Yet she was stunning, poised, and carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew she belonged. The ceremony was held on a private island resort off the coast of Dubai, accessible only by invitation and helicopter. Guests included royalty from neighboring Gulf states, global tech CEOs, fashion icons, and a handful of carefully selected influencers who were instructed not to post until after the event. The decor was opulent but restrained. White orchids flown in from Thailand, crystal chandeliers suspended from imported Italian canopies, and a custom-built glass aisle that floated above a pool of koi fish. Every detail was curated to reflect Zayed's taste for understated luxury and absolute control. Leila wore a gown designed by a reclusive Parisian couturier, rumored to cost over $1 million. Her veil was embroidered with verses from classical Arabic poetry, and her jewelry included heirloom emeralds from Zayed's family vault. As she walked down the aisle, drone cameras captured her from every angle, broadcasting the footage to a select group of guests watching from yachts anchored nearby. Zayed stood waiting, expression unreadable, dressed in a tailored white sherwani that blended tradition with modern minimalism. Before the wedding, Leila Haddad was asked to sign a confidential marital agreement prepared by Zayed Al-Mansoor's legal team. It was not a standard prenuptial contract. While it included clauses about asset protection, inheritance rights, and media discretion, one condition stood out. Leila was required to be a virgin at the time of marriage. The clause was buried deep within the document, written in clinical legal language, but its intent was unmistakable. It was a demand rooted in tradition, pride, and control. Zayed's family, known for their conservative values despite their global business empire, had insisted on its inclusion. For them, purity was not just symbolic. It was proof of loyalty, honor, and obedience. Leila signed the agreement without hesitation. Whether she understood the full implications or felt she had no choice remains unclear. She had no legal representation of her own, and the signing took place in a private room at Zayed's estate, with only his lawyers present. The document was sealed and stored in a vault, never meant to be seen by anyone outside the family. But its existence would later become the key to unraveling the mystery behind her death. In the days leading up to the wedding, Leila's behavior changed subtly. She became more withdrawn, avoiding long conversations and spending hours alone in her suite. Staff noticed she stopped eating regularly and seemed distracted during fittings and rehearsals. Some assumed it was nerves. Others suspected something deeper. But no one dared to ask. Zayed's household operated under strict silence, and any breach of privacy was grounds for immediate dismissal. The newlyweds arrived at Zayed Al-Mansoor's penthouse just after midnight. The suite, perched atop one of Dubai's tallest towers, offered sweeping views of the city's glittering skyline. It was the kind of place designed to impress, with imported marble floors, gold fixtures, and a private rooftop garden. Security footage showed Leila entering first, still in her wedding gown, her bouquet clutched loosely in one hand. She paused briefly at the entrance, looked around, and walked inside. Zayed followed moments later, expression unreadable, his posture rigid. The hours that followed were a blank space in the timeline. No staff entered the suite. No calls were made. No alarms were triggered. The building's surveillance system recorded no unusual activity. From the outside, everything appeared calm. But by morning, Leila was dead. Her body was discovered in the master bathroom, submerged in a tub filled with rose-scented water. The petals floating around her were part of the wedding suite's luxury package, a detail meant to symbolize romance and renewal. Instead, they became part of a crime scene. She was fully clothed, her wedding dress soaked and clinging to her skin. Her makeup had smudged, but there were no signs of a struggle. No bruises, no broken nails, no defensive wounds, just stillness. The initial assumption was accidental drowning. Perhaps she had fainted or slipped, but the absence of any physical trauma raised questions. The water temperature was lukewarm, suggesting she had been in the tub for hours. Her phone was found on the vanity, untouched. The bouquet lay on the floor, petals scattered. A single champagne glass sat on the counter, half full. The autopsy report on Leila Haddad's body shifted the investigation from speculation to suspicion. At first glance, there were no visible signs of trauma. No bruises, no abrasions, no broken bones. Her body appeared untouched, as if she had simply fallen asleep in the bath and never woken up. But beneath the surface, the forensic team uncovered a series of unsettling details that would reshape the narrative of her death. Traces of a rare sedative were found in Leila's bloodstream. It was not a common sleeping aid or anxiety medication. It was a compound used in high-level surgical procedures, typically administered under strict medical supervision. The dosage was high, enough to render her unconscious within minutes. Investigators quickly discovered that the drug was not available through legal channels in Dubai. It had to be imported or acquired through black market sources. That detail alone suggested premeditation. Further examination revealed signs of a recent surgical procedure. The medical examiner noted that Leila had undergone hymen reconstruction surgery, a controversial and often secretive operation performed in various parts of the world. The procedure had been done within the last 6 months, and while it was technically successful, it left behind subtle indicators that a trained professional could detect. The examiner's findings were not meant for public release, but the report was leaked to the press within days, igniting a firestorm of speculation. The revelation that Leila was not a virgin at the time of her wedding and had attempted to conceal it through surgery added a volatile layer to the case. The marital contract she had signed, which included the virginity clause, became central to the investigation. It was no longer just a symbolic document. It was now a motive. The clause, once buried in legal jargon, had transformed into a trigger for violence. Zayed Al-Mansoor vanished the morning after Leila Haddad's funeral. His private jet, registered under a shell company based in Luxembourg, departed from Al Maktoum International Airport with no listed destination. The flight plan indicated a route toward the Maldives, but air traffic records showed the jet diverted mid-air and disappeared from civilian radar. Within hours, Zayed's social media accounts were deactivated, and his company issued a vague statement claiming he had taken a spiritual sabbatical. The timing was suspicious. The silence was deafening. Dubai authorities, already under pressure from international media, quietly launched a homicide investigation. The initial theory of accidental drowning had collapsed under the weight of forensic evidence. The sedative found in Leila's bloodstream was traced to a black market supplier in Istanbul, known for catering to elite clients seeking untraceable pharmaceuticals. The transaction had been made weeks before the wedding, using cryptocurrency and routed through multiple digital wallets. Investigators suspected Zayed had orchestrated the purchase himself. The marital contract, once a private document, was now a focal point of the case. Legal experts debated its enforceability, but its symbolic weight was undeniable. It revealed a mindset obsessed with control, purity, and legacy. The clause about virginity, buried in legal jargon, had become a motive. The fact that Zayed had placed the contract on the bedside table the night of Leila's death suggested intent, not just to punish, but to make a statement. As the investigation deepened, authorities began to uncover inconsistencies in Zayed's public persona. While he was known as a visionary entrepreneur, his private life was tightly guarded. Former employees described him as meticulous, paranoid, and emotionally distant. A few hinted at past relationships that ended abruptly, often with generous settlements and strict non-disclosure agreements. Weeks after Leila Haddad's death, the investigation took a dramatic turn when a former maid from Zayed Al-Mansoor's estate came forward. She refused to reveal her identity publicly, fearing retaliation, but her testimony was recorded and verified by authorities. She had worked in Zayed's household for nearly 2 years, and had witnessed the inner workings of a world few outsiders ever saw. Her account added a disturbing layer to the already complex case. According to the maid, Zayed had always been controlling, especially with women. He demanded absolute discretion from his staff and enforced strict behavioral codes. Female employees were not allowed to wear perfume, speak unless spoken to, or make eye contact with guests. Surveillance cameras were installed in nearly every room, not just for security, but for monitoring behavior. The maid described Zayed as emotionally detached, prone to sudden mood swings, and obsessed with cleanliness and order. But what disturbed her most was his fixation on purity. She recalled an incident involving a previous girlfriend who had stayed at the estate briefly. After a private argument, the woman left abruptly, and staff were instructed to erase all traces of her presence. The maid overheard Zayed speaking to his head of security, saying she failed the test. At the time, she didn't understand what he meant. After Leila's death, the phrase took on a chilling significance. The maid also revealed that Leila had confided in her weeks before the wedding. During a quiet moment in the garden, Leila expressed fear, not of the wedding itself, but of what might happen afterward. She had undergone a surgical procedure in Europe and was terrified Zayed would find out. She said she loved him but didn't trust him. She had considered fleeing Dubai after the honeymoon, using a ticket she had secretly booked under a different name. She never used it. Interpol's search for Zayed Al-Mansoor ended abruptly in Montenegro, where he was discovered living under an alias in a secluded estate nestled in the mountains. The property, registered to a shell corporation, was surrounded by dense forest and guarded by private security. Local authorities, tipped off by a digital trail left through cryptocurrency transactions, moved in quietly. But before extradition could be arranged, Zayed was found dead in his study, an apparent suicide. The room was untouched, the windows sealed, and the door locked from the inside. He had ingested a lethal dose of the same sedative found in Leila's bloodstream. On the desk lay a handwritten note, short and cryptic. She lied. I broke, but I loved her. The message was scrawled in uneven lines, suggesting emotional turmoil. It was the only personal statement Zayed had ever made about Leila, and it raised more questions than it answered. Authorities confirmed his identity through biometric scans and dental records. The estate was searched thoroughly, revealing encrypted devices, burner phones, and a collection of surveillance footage dating back years. Among the files were recordings of Leila, moments from their engagement, private dinners, and even her final hours in the penthouse. The footage was obsessive, cataloged meticulously, and stored under folders labeled with dates and emotional tags like trust, doubt, and proof. It was clear Zayed had been documenting her every move, not for memory, but for control. The discovery of his death sent shockwaves through Dubai's elite. His company's stock plummeted, and board members scrambled to distance themselves from the scandal. The media, which had once celebrated Zayed as a visionary, now dissected his downfall with ruthless precision. Analysts debated whether his empire had been built on brilliance or paranoia. Psychologists weighed in on the note, interpreting it as a final attempt to justify an unforgivable act.